Hey there, fam. How's it going? And welcome to an episode of the Monday Motivation. How y'all doing? You guys had a great weekend, had a great Sunday, received a lot of word from your pastors. Yeah? You guys ready for this week? I know I've been motivated. I've been, just hungry for it. I've just been getting after it. And it's been a really good couple of weeks. And I'm just excited even more for what's to come as we end this year strong. End it, with the blast, end it with a win, end it with a victory for every single one of us. Yeah? So the subject that God has placed upon me for this week, which is interesting because sometimes I get it like in pieces. Sometimes I'll get, something specific from Monday Motivation and then sometimes specific, for the midweek. But then God gave me, this amazing subject and he told me to break it up into two parts. So the first one, which will be today, is blind faith, right? If I had to put a title to today's motivation, it'd be called Blind Faith. And he took me to John 20:29, right? It was interesting because usually, these are more of just like a free flowing kind of conversation, just motivate, each other, just talk. But God gave me directions for this week. So I'm being obedient. So we'll go to John 20:29. And it is after Jesus has appeared to his disciples and to everybody. And now he gets to Thomas, and they call him Doubting Thomas because he wasn't really believing. And, saving and putting into summarize, that's what happened, And then we're going to go all the way, to verse 29, where it says, "Then Jesus told him, 'Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed.'" Yeah. So that's from the NIV version. But it's interesting how he says, blessed are those, like you've seen me and you believed, right? But blessed are those that have not seen and yet believed. Jesus is talking about us, right? He's talking about, once he went and he went back to heaven, those of us that did not physically see him, right? Because people say, seeing is believing, right? They have to see it to believe it. All that, there's that phrase is very commonly thrown around. And here, Jesus is saying, you're blessed because you saw me and you believed. And that's awesome. Like you're seeing it with your physical eyes and you're believing it. But blessed are those that still believe without seeing me, right? The Bible says that we walk by faith and not by sight. And that was interesting to me. That was, it was special because how many times in our lives does God drop something in our heart, in our mind, into our spirit, whether it's a calling, whether it's a purpose, whether it's a project, whatever it might be. And we might not see it happening in the present right now, but we know that God gave us that vision. He gave us that dream. He gave us those ideas. So we have to trust him, right? So that's the part that I really want to focus on today is understanding that you might not see it right now, but blessed are those that have believed without seeing me, right? That's the part that it really stuck out because when we have that kind of faith, that blind kind of faith, right? And I want to be careful how I say this because it's not blind faith in the sense of we don't know what's going to happen. Like, oh, let's see what happens. We'll close my eyes to anything's happening and we're going to see what happens. No. It's a faith that, again, like I said, the Bible even says it, that we walk by faith and not by sight, that we call things that are not as if they were. The Bible calls faith, the evidence of things hoped for, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, right? Like when you break it down that way, it is the substance of things hoped for, right? What is substance? Substance is something that has matter, that has mass. It's what makes something up. So faith is the substance of things hoped for, right? So we are hoping for something. We're believing for something. The evidence of things not seen. It is evident, when we trust in God, having that faith, like, what? If I'm putting faith into this, I know that's my evidence because I'm going to attach it to what God's word is. I'm going to attach it to God's promise. I'm going to attach it to what God says about me and what he says that, I will become and that I will overcome, right? So it's that evidence you have. So people say, well, how do you know? I'm having faith. Right. That doesn't make any sense. People use the analogy of the wind and how, you don't see the wind, but you can feel it. And I know that it powers so many things. You have the windmills, you have turbines, right? But that's a good, analogy for it. But I want you to look at it the other way. I want you to look at it, not even another way. I want you to look at it deeper. You are believing for something that your physical eyes don't see, but you've seen it, right? Right, in your spirit, God's giving it to you either in a dream, you felt it in your spirit, you just know there's that certain calling, there's that certain just push and that certain just pull into whatever field it might be, whether it's, in the ministry, whether it's, in your job, whether it's, you have a feel like you have a calling that's going to take you other places. There's that certain pull. There's that thing inside of you that God's placed, and only in you, right? That is unique and specific to you. You might be doing it, and many, like other people might be doing it too, like musicians. Let's say I use the example a lot because it's pretty common, thing to use as an analogy, right? You might be a musician in, let's say, I don't know, country music, right, or R&B or whatever, right? And there might be other artists in your genre, but you bring something to the table that they don't, right? The point is to stand out in the sense of you're not mimicking other people. You might take inspiration from them, right? But the only thing that makes you you is you. So we get inspiration from, the things that God's spoken about us. But when God calls us, there we go, into something, it's because he's placed a distinctive and unique vision into your life, into your heart. So when I thought about that, and I even put in my notes here, like we ask God to let us feel him, just for a touch of him. But what happens when he calls us to be faithful and to have faith, even when we feel like we don't see him or feel him, right? You ever been in a position where you're going to do something and God called you to do that thing. You know that you are in his will, and you know that you're doing exactly what he's called you to do, but you feel in your heart, or you might feel like in the outside, in the moment, in a moment of weakness, like, God, like, are you sure you're here? You start questioning it. And that's just the enemy attacking your mind. He's just attacking you up here because he knows if he can knock out your head, he can knock out the rest of, knock out the body. He can knock out the rest of your vision, the rest of your goals, right? If he can stop you up here at this stage, then it means you won't proceed into the next steps of your life. So when I put that, when God put that into my heart, made me think of maybe you're going through a process, maybe you're going through a time where I don't see you're questioning God, but you're like, God, like, listen, like, I'm not really feeling this. Like, is this correct? And if you are, like, I want to tell you that, yes, God's still there. He might not be coming in like a thunder and lightning, all these crazy things, but he's there. He's there in a whisper. And I also want to preface by saying, maybe you're doing too much talking, right? Like, maybe you're like, Lord, you start scratching your head like, really? Am I supposed to go over here? And you've been talking so much and talking maybe yourself out of something that if you would just be quiet for a second, like, all right, God, what am I going to do? And you have those moments of quietness, right? Don't be afraid of just being silent sometimes, right? I know it can be kind of awkward. Like if I'm just standing here, just like nothing's happening, right? And you like get that silent thing, like, no, your audio didn't go out, but you can't be uncomfortable in those positions. You can't be uncomfortable in those silent times, because in those silent times is when God speaks even clearer. So those silent times is when you go and all your other senses get heightened. You close your eyes, you stay quiet. Wow, okay, you hear that, you hear this, you hear the rustling of this, you hear God's voice amplified, right? So the Bible also talks about how the word is a lamp to your feet, a light to your path. And I've talked about it before, that if you think about a lamp, like we have these massive like studio lights here, but if I were to turn on just like my phone or have a little lamp or a little candle here, it only light up this small area, right? That's how the Bible is sometimes for us, that we might not see the whole path, right? We might not see the whole setup of it, but it's a lamp to my feet. So my next step, I know, is in God. It's a light to my path. So as I'm going through this dark path, as I'm going through this valley, as I'm going through this process, this word of God is what's lighting my way, right? I'm using this as a filter. I'm using this as a flashlight, if you want to put it that way, for my next step. Because I don't need to know the whole plan. I just need to know what my next step is, right? Having that faith that God's already planned it out for you. Right. And I've said it in other, I know I put it on my Instagram a couple of times, talk to Rods if you haven't followed that. Quick plug. But if we can't worry what God's already worked out. Right. Stephen Furtick said that, so I can't take that quote, I can't say that I made that quote up, but God reminded me right now of it. We can't worry about what God's already worked out. Yeah. Like he's already worked it out. He's already been in the future, right? He already sees what's coming up next. So we need to be in the present and be like, all right, God, you've already seen it. You already told me where to go. So I might not know like 12 steps from now, but I know my next one, and that's believing you. I might not know what I need to be doing in the whole scheme of things. Like I might know like, okay, here's the entrance portion of it is. I know the beginning stages. I don't know what's going to look like in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years. But I know that if I stay faithful to you, you're going to keep on showing to me, right? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So that's the evidence that I know, like, all right, God, you've got this. You got me. So I'm just going to relax in you. I'm going to come back and be like, all right, God, you got this. Where's our, there's nothing to worry about this time because you made it happen. You're going to make it happen for me, right? When we come into that kind of level of maturity in the word, we come to that level of just peace of like, all right, God, I don't know what I'm going to do next in the sense of, again, grand scheme, but I do know that you got my back. I do know my end goal and I know where I'm at now. Now there's the middle part that I need help with. I know you've called me to go here, to be on high. You've called me to own my business, to go and take the word of God to all these different nations. For sure. I know that for a fact. But see, right now, I'm just living in a little studio right now. Right now, I'm just living in a little apartment. Right now, my finances aren't where they should be or where they need to be. But see, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust that you already planned it out for me. I'm going to trust that you're going to bring the people around me that I need in my life to get to that point. I'm going to put my faith in you, put my trust in you, right? You've all heard this before, that if your dream doesn't scare you, it's not big enough, right? Now, that's like the outside worldly portion of it. For me is if your dream is something you can achieve by yourself, it's not big enough. Your dream needs to be so big and so magnificent. It's just the magnitude of it needs to be so heavy that only God can do it. At that point, that's when you know it's a God-given dream. If you can do it yourself, it's like, all right, like you can fall. I'm not gonna say you will, but you can fall into the level of like, oh, well, I mean, I got this. I can handle this. Nah, man, dream bigger. Bigger. Stretch out your tents. Stretch out your stakes. Go big. Go big or go home. Because when God gives you that kind of, here we go. When God gives you that massive dream, it's because he is preparing you. He's building you up. He's giving you the tools you need to achieve that next victory, to achieve that next goal, to achieve everything he has for you. Yeah? That's where we need to go and find the confidence in knowing that if he's given us that vision, if he's given us that idea, if he's given us that dream and that purpose in our hearts, it's because he's going to supply all of our needs and he's going to sustain us in that process. That's the word for someone right there. He's going to sustain you in that process you're going through. It might not seem like you're getting all the answers, and I get that, but God might be sheltering you. He might be protecting you from the big craziness. And he's like, all right, I need you to do this first. I need you to develop this part so we can go to that part. Build step 1 so you can go to step 2, then 3, then 4, right? If you start jumping steps around, you're at 1, then at 7, at 5, you might start thinking, well, all right, God, you might get overwhelmed by it. Like, God, this is too much. God's like, just relax, man. I got it. Learn step 1, master step 1, then we go to step 2. Quick. It's very simple, right? God's a God of order. That's what I want to tell you guys today is that just have faith. I've called it blind faith, but it's not relying on your physical senses and not relying on your physical eyes and your physical ears and your touch, but putting all your trust in God. I'm like, all right, God, Lord, open up my spiritual eyes, my spiritual ears. Let me listen to your voice and let me see the plans you set out for before me, right? Let me see it the way you see me. That's what we need to do. Yeah? I love you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any sucks. I love y'all. Hope this was a motivational word for you guys. Just have that faith that surpasses, just have faith and that peace that surpasses all understanding. You guys got this. I'm believing you guys. I know and I'm trusting that you guys are just going to take this and just go after all the wins and all the victories. Yeah. I love y'all. Stay safe. See y'all on Wednesday. Make it the best day ever.